new building seems to be working well.
Yeah.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Monticello City Council to order. Would you please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for
which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to ask everyone to bow in a moment of silence for Jim Allman, who passed away last Thursday. Jim served on the city council for 2 terms, like from 2001 to 2008. Thank you. Rodney Burris from Arts Foursquare Church will lead us in prayer.
All right, so thank you, Lord, for being with us tonight. We ask you to give us wisdom and humility as we make decisions, and that they're the best for this community. We love you and praise your name. Amen.
Amen.
Bird.
Here.
Ben's here. Ms. Harlan. Here. Mr. Reed.
Here.
Ms. Bowe. Here. Mr. Brock.
Here.
Mr. Burris.
Here.
Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Motion, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Motion passed.
Motion quorum.
Public participation, in-person participation. This is an opportunity for the public to provide public comment to the presiding officer. Those wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to commencement of the meeting. Must address council from the seat and table provided. The public comments must comply with ordinance 2014-02 and be limited to 5 minutes or less. First up this evening is Barbara Cameron. Hi.
I live on North State Street, and there's now a school that's in the former professional building. That school, those students are going back and forth to the park I don't know how many times a day. I see them periodically. My concern is that the traffic along North State Street, particularly coming from the north down, really exceeds the stated miles per hour, the 30. In fact, I was out this morning, and I would say that almost the first 10 that were coming from the north were all, in my estimation, well over the 30-mile-an-hour limit. My concern is these children going back and forth and spontaneously not being in the line and not staying in the line, darting out and so forth. I would very much appreciate and have the consideration to designate that from the school to the entryway into the park as a school zone, so that people can know it's there, slow down, and so forth. I mean, I shudder what would happen if some child darted out in front of this car. At 30 miles an hour, that would be horrible, but at 60 miles an hour, it would not be pretty at all. So I would just ask that you consider designating that area from the entryway to the park down to their school building to be a school zone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's duly noted, and we'll look into it. John Loffier.
Don Wathier with Burns Clancy Associates Engineers in Urbana. I'm here tonight to just comment briefly about the proposed heritage subdivision preliminary plan and rezoning. I think that based upon the action by the Plan and Zoning Board, that the preliminary plan is certainly a very good thing. And I think it's a well thought out, well put together plan that given the conditions that the zoning board put together on that, I think that it would be appropriate for you, city council, to approve that preliminary plan and the rezoning request for RS zoning.
Thank you very much. Remote participation. This is an opportunity for the public to provide public comment to the presiding officer. Public comments must comply with ordinance 2014-02 and be limited to 5 minutes or less. At this time, members of the public are able to attend public meetings by web conference and to submit public comment by email, voicemail, or through web conference. Is there anyone this evening more? Thank you. Mr. Schreppler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've addressed this issue to the Planning and Zoning Board several times over the years. I don't believe I've ever mentioned it to the City Council. But I draw your attention to our zoning ordinance regarding conditional use permits and conditional uses. Not the current zoning ordinance, but the prior one, I believe it may be 1987, reads substantially that if the new zoning ordinance requiring a conditional use permit for an existing use exists, that property owner shall be granted a conditional use permit, and the specific verbiage is without hearing or charge. If the Reeder property was, I know they had a hearing because I attended the meeting virtually. I don't know if they were charged a fee. If they were, you should refund that fee. You should probably also look back to other instances where people were charged for a conditional use permit for a use that was already existing. As we know, the Reeder property has been used that way for decades, long before the conditional use came along that would be required under a new use under our ordinance. I think it's very unfair to be charging people for something that is already theirs by right. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, consent agenda. Approval of documents and action items is listed. Claims report, claims dated April 13, 2021 through April 26, 2021. Meeting minutes, city council meeting minutes, April 12, 2021. City council closed meeting, April 12, 2021. Budget report, March 2021. Treasurer's report, March 2021. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? Any comments or questions?
I have a question in the police budget. There's a notation in there to Star Lighting Products for a warning light bar for $650. What vehicle did that go on?
Can I answer that?
John? Yeah,
It
please.
was on my car. I did not have one in the back. Put in for it quite some time ago, and the individual that was supposed to put it in, I guess has gone out of business because he no longer returns my calls, and I have one device for the vehicle.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Mr. Ferris?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens? Yes. Ms. Harlan? Yes. Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Coon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The mayor's report this evening. There are 65 businesses in Monticello, DeLand, Whiteheath, Idesdale, and Bement that are actively hiring to fill over 150 full and part-time positions of all levels, trades, and experience. View the local job board on the city's website for a listing, or visit the Piatt County Workforce Development Office for workforce assistance. New businesses. Welcome to Nelson's Catering, who will be operating Monarch Event Center in downtown. Ribbon cutting is this Thursday from 5 to 7. The ribbon cutting is at 5 o'clock. Congratulations to Lisa Bourne on opening LS Photography at her new location in the remodeled space next door at 108 East Livingston. And even though they've been open since December, we've never officially welcomed Sweet Grace Vintage on Buchanan Street. Some upcoming events, virtual Kirby Derby, May 1st through 15th. Weekend train rides start back up this coming weekend. Illinois High School Rodeo Association District 2 Rodeo, May 1st and 2nd at Piatt County Trailblazers. Spring Boutique Bash and Market on Main, Sunday, May 2nd, 1 to 4 p.m. in downtown Monticello with vendors, live music, and the Weenie Wagon. Sangamon Valley CEO Trade Show Wednesday, May 5th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Piatt County Forest Preserve Park Pavilion. Mother's Day train rides, May 8th and 9th at the Railway Museum. So there's a lot going on. This sounds like it's going to be one heck of a busy weekend, so please take advantage of the opportunities. Moving on to new business, resolution 2021-17, resolution for approval of conditional use, LMN Properties Limited, owner, 1751 North Market Street. Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor. LMN Properties Limited is the owner of the 1751 North Market Street. There currently are 2 buildings used for warehouse storage. The owner, Mike Nicholson, who I believe is joining us remotely, would like to demolish those buildings and construct one larger building to house both the self-storage warehouse and his heating and AC business. Because that would be 2 principal uses on one parcel, a conditional use permit is required. The public notice was published March 31st of in the Piatt County Journal Republican, and all adjacent property owners were notified by certified mailing as required. The Planning and Zoning Board held a public hearing last Monday, April 19th. Members of the public requested clarification regarding the floodplains, and a letter was read, which is also attached in your supporting documents. After further discussion, the Planning and Zoning Board voted to recommend approval of the conditional use, 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-17, resolution for approval of conditional use, LMN Properties Limited, owner, 1751 North Market Street?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comment, questions before we proceed?
Where are these located? Where's 1751 North Market?
It's where,
Ducky Daycare.
For Jerry Gaskell had his place.
Thank you.
Yeah, the old
Thank you.
Camp Creek.
Anyone else? Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Mr. Fred?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Boat?
Yes.
Mr. Rock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Coon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to resolution 2021-18, resolution for an amendment to a conditional use request, Jerry Sample, owner, 450 West Main Street. Callie?
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry Sample received an initial conditional use in 2013 to allow multiple main uses on the property, including the dojo studio and auto restoration business. And then last year received an amendment to that to add the mini golf that he has going on out there. He would like to add another conditional or another principal use of a restaurant, which is kind of where coffee shop falls under. He has an interested individual wanting to remodel the space and provide that service here in Monticello. It would provide for outdoor seating, curbside service, as well as patio space. As you know, the city has plans to extend the streetscape at some point, so that could offer a pretty unique patio experience there as well. Of course, once the build out actually occurs, he would be subject to the building code, plumbing codes, health department requirements. So the image you have is just for conceptual purposes only. Public notice was published in the March 31st edition of the local paper, and all public mailings were sent out as required by statute. A hearing was held last Monday, the 19th, and no concerns were raised. After discussion, the Planning and Zoning Board voted to recommend approval, 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-18, resolution for an amendment to a conditional use request, Jerry Sample, owner?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
My only concern is it looks like they only have, and again, the health codes come at a later time, correct?
Yeah, once
They've only got, and their drawings, they only have room for one restroom, and I'm not sure where they're kitchen's going to be?
So that was just, again, for conceptual purposes.
Okay.
Anything they build out, like, as you know, with plumbing and the public health side, that'll trigger that oversight and those requirements.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Tammy?
My concern was, again, parking. Do they have parking here or is it considered on-street again?
It'll be on street.
And there's no, just for clarification, no drive-through, right?
No drive-through.
Anyone else? It's been moved and seconded. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
No.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to resolution 2021-19, resolution for approval of conditional use. Chris and Cindy Reeder, owners, 1056 South Market Street. Callie Jo?
Chris and Cindy Reeder are in the process of selling the blue apartment building that is south of town at 1056 South Market. It has been used for 5 apartments units for many, many decades. And while it is an existing non-conforming use, the owners wish to make it a legal conforming use. And so they have applied for a conditional use to bring it up to current legal conforming status. Again, nothing is changing as it relates to the number of units, the structure itself, and so forth. This also allows some protections if something were to happen with the structure, if it were damaged to a certain extent or so forth, where they could continue that use at that property. Public notice was published March 31st of the local paper. All adjacent property owners were notified by certified mailing. As per statute, the Planning and Zoning Board held a hearing last Monday the 19th, and after discussion voted to recommend approval of this conditional use request, 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-19, resolution for approval of conditional use, Chris and Cindy Reeder, owners, 1056 South Market Street?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
I guess, why has this not already been zoned apparently decades ago?
So one of two things could have happened. Number one, it predates zoning, which makes it, or as happens, because we're, especially over many, many, many years, it could have happened without it ever being addressed.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Mr. Ferris,
Yes, ma'am.
Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. We move on to ordinance 2021-20, an ordinance amending the zoning of a parcel of property upon annexation, 1690 North State Street, the Heritage Subdivision. Go ahead, Kelly.
Mayor. Julia Atkins is the owner of 1690 North State Street, which locals know as the former Varner property. She would like to subdivide the property into 5 separate lots, each one being about 8/10 of an acre or more. Annexation, and then also annex in because she would like city utilities. Annexation would automatically convert to the most restrictive zoning, which is RD. That is by definition not an appropriate zoning. So given the nature of their proposal, the suburban residential zoning classification is appropriate. A public notice was published in the March 31st edition of the local paper. I guess the property owners were notified by certified mailing as per state statute. The Planning and Zoning Board held a public hearing at last week's Planning and Zoning Board meeting. The representative of the adjacent property expressed pleasure over the applicant willing to work and address their concerns. A letter was also read from another property owner regarding some questions that they had about the preliminary plan itself. After further discussion, the PZB voted to recommend approval of the rezoning request, 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Is there a motion to waive second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Ferris,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-20, an ordinance amending the zoning of a parcel of property upon annexation, 1690 North State Street, the Heritage Subdivision?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Comments, questions?
Am I reading this correctly or incorrectly, whichever? Is there a provision here for sidewalks and streetlights? The way this reads, I'm not sure there's a provision for sidewalks.
So that kind of falls more into the preliminary plan. You can address it now if you'd like. This is just the rezoning, however you wish.
We can do it on preliminary plan. I didn't see anything in there that provides for sidewalks and streetlights, and I definitely don't believe we should build any subdivisions without sidewalks and streetlights.
Okay. We're back on 2021, all right?
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, I need a vote, please.
Mr. Ferris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Yes.
and Mr. Coon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 2021-21. An ordinance annexing certain property to the city of Monticello, Piatt County, Illinois, 1690 North State Street. Callie?
That's actually.
Correct. I knew I was going to switch here shortly.
Thank you. And Mrs. Clark, the attorney for that Atkins, she's on remote.
Okay, fine.
Didn't think she can answer, but. Anyway, annexation, Stephen Pidle, land surveyor, precision engineering group, submitted a survey for annexation of property known as 1690 North State Street. That was the property that we just talked about the zoning for. It's located there just directly south of the Fourth Reserve Park. Per state statute, certified mailings are sent out to board members of the Alpine Public Library and our Fire Protection District taxing bodies. No planning and zoning board action is necessary for annexation. To recommend the city council discuss and approve the annexation of 1690 North State Street, city of Monticello.
Is there a motion to waive second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I need a vote, please.
Mr. Ferris,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021 and ordinance annexing certain property to the city of Monticello, Piatt County, Illinois, 1690 North State Street?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Appropriate now. Hearing or seeing none, can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Ferris,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Harlan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Boat,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to resolution 2021-22. Resolution for approval of the preliminary plan, the Heritage Subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we previously stated, Julia Atkins is proposing a single-family residential subdivision to create the Heritage Subdivision. This property currently known as 1690 North State Street. Precision Engineering Group and Mrs. Atkins have submitted the preliminary plan. City staff will review. The preliminary plan meets requirements of chapter 152-041 of the municipal. Mrs. Atkins is requesting waivers for curb and gutter types from barrier style to mountable style to eliminate the sidewalk requirement and to allow lots number 2, 3, 4, and 5 to have a private pumped sewage disposal system that connects to the city's sanitary sewer. The developer must be in compliance with all other requirements as outlined in the manual practice and design public improvements of the city of Monticello. The required public notice was published in the January 27th, January 27th
February 3rd, March 3rd, and March 3rd, 31st edition of the Fayette County Journal Republic. Planning and Zoning Board met at their regularly scheduled meeting on April 19th, 2021, and held a required public hearing. Several comments were brought from the public. Most comments were generally in favor of the project. However, there were some concerns regarding the waiver to the sidewalk requirement. Planning and Zoning Board approved the motion with a vote of 7 yes, 0 no. I propose a copy of the Planning and Zoning Board motion, the preliminary plan, and resolution for consideration of the above mentioned preliminary plan. I will note on the motion for the Planning and Zoning Board, there was an error on that. Number 4, the zoning designation. When we originally discussed it, they were asking for it to be an RA1. And then as things progressed, it changed to an RS zoning designation. That was a typo, a mistake on my part. It should have read RS zoning designation. The Planning and Zoning Board was fully aware of what zoning designation. We discussed it in that night. So I don't believe that was substantial.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-22, resolution for approval of the preliminary plan, the Heritage subdivision?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
What is the street basis here? Is this concrete, asphalt?
That's what they're proposing concrete.
They're proposing concrete.
But no sidewalks.
That's one of the waivers they were requesting is for no sidewalks. One of their justifications is they were liking to model it after heading your court subdivision where there's no sidewalks present. It's a dead end cul-de-sac. No, they were wanting to also preserve the kind of the park-like settings of it. So if without sidewalks, they can eliminate cutting down more trees to make room for the sidewalks and such.
And what about street lighting?
There's no street lighting planned on the preliminary plan. That could be something that goes, that's usually, if street lights are going to be on there, it's usually in the site plan, the engineering phase of that. But I can certainly bring that up to them. I don't think that's, I don't think the street lights are regulated during the preliminary plan. I don't think they're required to be on.
Anyone else?
I would hope if this moves forward, if that is their plan for concrete, that our engineering people and their engineering people get together and we do not wind up with the situation that is in my ward northeast of me, concrete streets that are literally falling apart after just a few years of use and almost becoming untravelable. Right now, if you walk through that subdivision, it's a crying shame, the condition of those streets. And I think it was an oversight. They obviously weren't poured correctly. Product wasn't looked at right, and it did not cure right. And consequently, they're coming apart. So if this goes forward, I think we should
Totally concur.
have a little oversight there.
So to answer that question, I guess to give you some insight on that. So we require all these subdivisions probably come after that subdivision was constructed. The engineering company hired by the developers is to do 100% on-site inspections, which means they are supposed to be there on-site 100% of the time for construction. The city is also on-site at any number of times during construction, most definitely during water main construction, sewer main construction, and we do complete oversight of the roadway course and the equipment government.
Thank you.
We do a series of tests. We do what's called a proof roll on the subbase to make sure it's suitable. We require that to be any areas that are to be fixed and things like that. So we do have quite a bit of oversight. This is going to be a public street that the state of Monticello owns and maintains. So we definitely have a vested interest in that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, I was just wondering, can any kind of requirement be made that as the houses are constructed, that a pole light out front that would come on automatically at dusk be part of their construction, or is that?
That's something that would end up being in the covenants or.
Yeah.
A requirement by the HOA.
Yeah.
That's not something, we can't require them to have a personal.
Yep. Thank you.
So there's no way, the way I'm reading this, the county has already, the zoning board's already given the waiver for no sidewalks. So that's done. Is that what I understand?
We recommended approval of that.
They recommend it's the city council has final say in this as a whole, as it reads. But their recommendation was for.
Is that existing driveway, asphalt driveway, is that going to be removed?
I can't say if it's going to be removed or changed in some way. It kind of depends on house layout when they build that lot out.
I think it just shows the existing conditions.
Yeah, this shows the existing conditions of the driveway. So sure. The south entrance, that's kind of like a circle driveway. That south entrance will be gone. The north entrance, I don't know if that's the one you were talking about.
Well, my thought process is, well, there's no reason for 2, let alone 3 entrances into this area. And if the existing asphalt driveway is there, lot 1's got 1, 2, unless it connects with Leo Lane, then you for sure, lot 1 has 2 entrances off State Street, which seems kind of,
Over State Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what the builder wants to do with that lot, how they want to place the lot. If it's frontage, it's going to be on State Street, or it's a mansion. It's all legal, I would proceed or not, either.
Anyone else?
How many subdivisions have we done this way without sidewalks recently? I mean, Henniger Court, that's relatively older subdivision.
We do typically some minor subdivisions. We do no sidewalk requirement.
Okay.
We did using those. I can't think of what the name of it is.
Where the old bus barn was, those 4 lots.
That's a minor subdivision. We did sidewalk requirements. There's no sidewalk that meets up with it anywhere for them to put in. Now, I will say that one of the builders did put a sidewalk in for whatever reason, just on one of the properties. But typically for minor subdivisions, that's a waiver that's requested almost all the time and usually granted.
Now, that sidewalk on State Street is not in great shape right along in there as part of this, would that be repaired?
The runs in front of this property?
Yeah.
Wherever they have the new street is going to be, they'll obviously be tearing that out for street approach. And then likely where the other driveways are, whether or not they're reused, those will likely be torn out. You're gonna have some crossings for the water main and sanitary main. So you're gonna have a pretty significant stretch of that.
It will have to be replaced, repaired, whatever anyway.
Yeah, it will be replaced at the expense of the development.
Okay. Well, will then that go pretty much all the way out to Forest Preserve Park then?
I honestly couldn't say how much they're gonna end up tearing out. I mean, it could be such a thing. If there's not much left, they would likely finish several panels if that's all that they were going to leave. Or it could be such a thing that if there's some left and it's a desired council, we can replace parts of it as well. It's not for lack of need, that's for sure.
Anyone else?
Is there really a continuous sidewalk on that west side anyway?
I believe.
You have to cross, I mean, if you're coming from the park and you're heading south, you got to cross the road to the church and head on the east side anyway.
I think it goes all the way down to the creek And then you would cross there at Long Beach, or you could cross.
Yeah. So it breaks.
There's no ADA ramp, I don't believe, to get across at the church. Your first ramp is gonna be like at Long Beach area.
Right. Right. If you're heading north from Lone Beach, there's like the sidewalk mostly is on the east side, but.
Yeah. I mean, there is a stretch there on the west side, but it goes much further. It goes all the way down to Jefferson Road. There on the east side.
Anyone else?
I just, as I said earlier, my concern about this is these are very attractive lots. I've always thought this is a great place for subdivision. I'm sure they're going to attract beautiful homes, but it's a heavily wooded area. It is pitch black out there at night. I just think we're inviting people to walk in the street with no light and no sidewalk. There are going to be children there, I would assume. It's not restricted to adults only. People are going to be in and out of there, cars in and out of there, because people are going to get curious and look. You know, everybody wants to go look at a pretty house. Please consider sidewalks and streetlights. It's just, I know it's cheaper to build them without it, but I don't know that cost is the only factor. That's all I got.
Do I understand it? We do the streets and the sidewalks later? I mean, as far as agreeing right now,
Probably.
agreeing on the subdivision.
Later.
What was that?
The street, the sidewalks and the lights. So if we were to, what, for lack of a better word, to hang our hat on that and want those improvements moving forward, are we concerned about that right now, or does that come later? I'm just confused at this point.
The streetlights will come later, but
The sidewalks are
what
not.
we vote on tonight is a waiver to allow them
Waive the
to
sidewalk.
construct sidewalks.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not sure if there's a
Okay.
mechanism to use to eliminate one waiver request from the voter line.
Can I ask you a question? Do we have street lights in the Turtles? Do we have sidewalks in the Turtles? Okay. I mean, they're a similar situation, same kind of lots, same kind of setting.
Except those are farther out of town. This place leads up to a park.
Yeah, but
I don't believe.
I can't believe there's going to be that much foot traffic up on that.
Yeah, Surrey Hill doesn't have streetlights or sidewalks. I mean, there's numerous examples.
Chimneys has sidewalks, we don't have any street lights.
You have a light in your yard?
Yes, and that's because of covenant.
Right. You're seeing that a lot more too. The lack of streetlights being replaced more by yard lights.
I would think that most people that lived in a darker area would do that, because they do that in Turtles. I know they do. So I think there's ways to address that without.
So what designates you having an actual street light? Like, yeah, like
Ask for it.
just ask for them? Is that, I mean, because I have several down there where I live, but.
To install the infrastructure. Ameren installs the infrastructure for the street lights. They're also responsible for maintenance of those maintenance and replacement of those street lights in the city case. A fairly hefty fee to them every year. I don't know the exact figure from me.
It's a lot, yeah.
$200,000 last year for that, for the power and maintenance of those. But yeah, the initial cost is a fee that they're going to pay.
But we're waiving the sidewalk requirements. That must mean that the city has sidewalk requirements that we're waiving. But they have a reason that they feel that that's important.
Part of the subdivision is they can ask for these waivers, and it's up to the council to grant them.
Right. Anyone else? Hearing or seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Kerr?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Ms. Harlan?
No.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
No.
Mr. Burris,
No.
Mr. Coon,
No.
motion fails.
Thank you. Resolution 2021-23, a resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code. Brett, I assume.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city council included $660,000 in motor fuel tax expenditures in the FY 2021 budget for the Sage Drive pavement rehabilitation work and associated improvement, including the construction engineering. On April 20th, 2021, the city of Monticello and our engineering consultant held a bid opening for this project at City Hall. Open road paving and cross construction returned for the two contractors that returned bids for this project. Cross construction had a bid of $671,839. And open road paving was the apparent low bidder at $650,987.20. Our consulting engineer's construction cost estimate for this project was $537,380.90. The resolution for you is required to notify the Illinois Department of Transportation that we desire to award the project of road paving and officially request an additional $114,000 in motor fuel tax money. That is in addition to the previous $660,000 that we already did a resolution. This is the total expenditure for construction engineering of $774,000. Awarding this project now will allow the best opportunity to have the project completed before the 2021-2022 school year begins.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-23, a resolution for improvement under Illinois Highway Code?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? Brett, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
The money that we're asking for is money that we already have in account. We just have to ask for them to,
Yes, sir.
we're not raising anything.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's just, we have to request motor fuel tax expenditures from.
We have to ask to spend our money.
It's in the account. We just have to request to spend it in a manner that we see fit, and they have to. Right. That's the point.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
One of our last couple of big road projects we've done, the consulting engineers, things have come in a lot lower. They did the same way for Bridge Street too, substantially. Whereas either we don't do it or we miss out on it.
Right.
Yeah,
We're kind of in the same boat here, it looks like.
Exactly.
We've seen that in this project and the last two conservatively sized projects we did. The construction costs are significantly higher than the engineer's estimate. And actually on for example, the Washington Mark Street pedestrian thing, they when our engineer turned in his estimate for it, I made the comment there that they thought his estimate was extremely high, and he ended up being about 15% low compared to what the winning bid was. It's the road construction industry is booming right now. The contractors have a ton of work. There's state, local, federal money and private money going to all different kinds of projects that these guys are bidding on. And it's just, they don't need the work as badly as they once did. I think it's part of the issue.
Any other comments, questions? Can I have a vote, please?
Mr. Ferris,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Harlan.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Ms. Boat.
Yes.
Mr. Brock.
Yes.
Mr. Burris.
Yes.
Mr. Coon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to convene a public hearing for the closeout report for the downstate small business grants. Callie Jo.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all remember, we've applied for 6 of the Downstate Small Business Stabilization Grant program that was offered through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity through the state. Because those are using funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development at the federal level, a public hearing is required not just for approval at the local level for applying, but also as part of the closeout reporting. How did the program do? How did the community feel about it, and so forth. Again, utilizing DCEO Community Development Block Grant Funds, we were able to apply for 6 grants for local businesses. Those that were awarded were reimbursed by the city to the business after proof of eligible expenses were provided. The amount awarded was based on a 60-day estimate of expenses provided by the business, capped at $25,000, with the final award determination being from the state of Illinois. This public hearing represents the closeout report for the following businesses awarded. The first one being Fieldhouse 219 LLC, located at 219 West Washington downtown. They received $25,000 towards expenses pertaining to supplies, primarily food. The second business is the fitness center located at 1752 North Market. They received $19,000 towards expenses pertaining to occupancy, personnel, utilities, telecommunication, insurance, and supplies. Both businesses again provided the appropriate documentation showing proof of expenses they paid and so forth prior to being reimbursed by the city of Monticello. Notice of this public hearing was published in the April 14th, 2021 edition of the General Publican, and the closing reports for the program have been available. Comment has been brought to staff's attention. However, we do still have to request if anybody has anything they'd like to say via remotely or you're in person, and please state your name for the record.
Are there any comments or questions, either publicly or remotely? Publicly? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the council? Okay. Is that all you need?
All I need.
I'd like a motion to come out of public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hey,
Opposed, no. Thank you. Alderman's reports, alderperson's reports. Let's start with John.
Me? God bless America. That's all I got.
Thanks.
I do think that the tenants at Dennis and the auto, I think they cleaned up some. Yeah, I thought it looked a little better. So thank you for reaching out to them, Callie.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Thomas?
Nothing.
Mary?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing.
Wendell?
Nothing. I think we've all talked enough.
Michael?
We had a meeting last Monday for the 30-acre recreation committee and had a wonderful presentation by John Lehan, who's the director of recreation and parks for Sauk Valley. I think there was a lot of useful things. In fact, I can forward you. It was on a Zoom call, so I think some people from the city have seen it, and there's a lot of useful things in there that I think will help us as we go down the road on that one. So.
Okay, thank you. Chief Carter?
Yes. I have a few things tonight. With our new system for recording the filming program, we're able to see how many calls for service we've had for the year. And so I checked this morning or this afternoon before coming here, and we were at 757 calls since the beginning of January. So not everything requires a report. A lot of stuff, vehicle lockouts, business checks, stuff like that. Everything gets a number, and we were at 757, and as I was leaving, there were more calls coming in. So we're above that now, but we have at least that. Over the weekend, we had the National Drug Take Back Day. We received and disposed of 94.8 pounds of medications. Just let you know also, I did submit a grant for over $29,000 for a new camera and car camera systems and body cameras. If we do receive that grant, which we have met all the requirements stated, would be awarded the grant, the city would have to cover the cost of the cameras in the front, which would then be reimbursed by the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. And then we would be responsible for installation costs only beyond that. Also want to let you know, we had the background checks of 2 individuals. We've hired, offered the job, and they've accepted. It's 2 individuals that will be starting, one in May and one in June. Conditional offers were given. They passed the medical, physical part and the psychological. So we look forward to getting them on board, getting them trained up and out on the streets. So
Very good.
we'll get them in here to meet you.
Good. Thank you. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know one of them, Kevin.
Yep.
Great individual.
I can tell you the names. One is Kevin Birch. A
Birch,
lot of people know him. He's from here in town. The other one is Devontae Foreman. He's from Danville. And he's looking forward to moving over here. So is his wife. So.
Good, great. Anyone else have any comments or questions for the chief? Very good, John, thanks. Terry's not here tonight, so that'll save a little time. Anyone have anything else before we adjourn the meeting? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Thank you. See you.